Hello, everybody, again to our fourth cross-company community manager call. We, the hosts from different companies in Germany, have agreed to start this little call because we wanted to know more about community managers in the social intranet of different companies. And as communities are about sharing, about doing something together, we thought, why not join forces, join our experiences in a call like this and come together and learn from each other. So today we will be looking into community management trends 2020. So what's up? And we will be having a story from Bosch where astronauts will be involved. But before we are diving into the topics, it's just some organizational information. So that's us, that's the hosts. I'm Achim from Daimler, but we also have Simon from Cogneon, we have Katrin from Schaeffler, Rebecca from ZF, Harald, he is not here, but usually he's in our team, Siemens, Healthineers, Stephanie, who will do the moderation afterwards from Continental, and the other Steffi from Bosch, and Monica, also from Bosch, who is also on our team. So it's great that we have you here. Great to see you here. About the tool we are using, Zoom. So the next slide. Simon, you wanted to say something about it.
Yes, you recognized it a second ago or so. A lot of people had noise in the background, so I muted everybody and then had to unmute Achim again. So this is the biggest wish that we have when you are in a noisy environment, that you mute yourself. That's on the mute button on the lower left side. You can start and stop your video at the same place. This means that you're visible in the recording as well when you start your video. Think about that. Perhaps later on when we have a Q&A, it's a good idea to start the video so everybody can see you if you ask a question. Then on the right-hand side, you can see the chat. Feel free to use the chat to communicate with others at any time, ask questions, put links, additional information, and so on. Normally, the participants won't need the share feature because the slides and so on are only shared by the presenters. Later on, you will see another feature which is called the breakout rooms. For smaller group discussions, we will sort of beam you in a breakout room where you can talk with about 5 to 6 other people. And then after a time span of 10 minutes, we just beam you back. But you don't have to do anything besides clicking a button to join that room, but we will explain that later on again. So back to Achim.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Simon. And we have some other formal issues to clarify. This just very, very shortly, because we are from different companies across Germany and also internationally. We just want to make sure that we go in compliance with the antitrust legislation. So only talk about ways of collaboration, about the way we are working, but don't talk about providers, don't talk about products, don't talk about projects or pricing or anything like that. That's very sensible. If you want to know more about this slide, we also have it on our website, so you can read what exactly is written here. Yeah, thank you for being compliant. Next slide, please. Yeah, and there we are in the agenda of today. We are starting with, no, Stephanie, would you like to explain the agenda to us? So Stephanie is mute.
Okay, now I'm unmute, sorry. Thanks again, Achim. Warm welcome also from my side. My name is Stephanie. I'm representing Continental today, and I'm also happy to have some community managers from our side here, and of course a lot of community managers from all the other companies. And so first, let us take a look what will await us today. Achim, you already said a lot, but now we are already close to the first story of today, which will be presented by Selina Gerlach when it comes to what astronauts have to do with community management. So we are very curious about that. And after that, we are glad to have Tanja Laub here today, chairwoman of the BVCM, the Bundesverband for Community Management, and hear what are the trends for community management in this year, what will await us there, where are we going to, and about this, after hearing from Tanja and having also time to ask questions, we will have the possibility to talk about that in those little breakout sessions and have conversations about what your opinion is to that, how you consider that, and maybe share experiences from your side.
Yeah, I'm very excited also to hear what's on your plate for this year. So stay here in the session, even when you're suddenly in a breakout session with only 5 other people. I'm very excited to see you there. Exactly. Okay, let's start. Selina, are you there?
Yes, it's my turn. Could you please give me free for screen sharing? It says I can't.
Okay, it's in the meanwhile, until Selina has screen sharing, it's a little story about, I guess, as I heard, it's about 2 communities and how they have been merged. In the process, the most important question is, how do I not lose all the members of those communities? And I think Bosch has found a very interesting answer to that.
Yes, thank you for the little introduction. That's exactly it. Hello, everyone again. As said, my name is Selina, and I'm a consultant for internal community management here at Bosch. And I'm very excited to share a successful example of how we used storytelling in our community management. And more important, what astronauts have to do with this. I want to tell you a story about a space mission that found, luckily, a very happy ending. The story took place a couple of years ago already, when I still was a member of the technical team of Bosch Connect, but storytelling is today more relevant than ever, so I guess it's still a very good example. So where did we come from? What was the situation? All started with a very deep need to change, because here at Bosch, a couple of years ago, we had 2 support communities for our social collaboration network, Bosch Connect. The one was called Houston, We Have a Problem, which was established from the technical Bosch Connect team. And the other one was named Experience City, which was established by the former E2.0 project, or project for agile working and social business. Both communities were really successful and had a lot of engaged users, but people were often confused when to use which of both communities, where to ask questions, where do I get the support. And so we asked the users if they want the closure of one community and bring all the support to one big central support community. And the answer in the survey was a clear and loud yes, which faced us with a big question. It was how? Because beside all the technical details we had to clarify, it was the question, how should we establish this new community and explain all the new functions, show the advantages of our existing to our existing members, close the existing Houston We Have a Problem community, and in the best case, do not lose one single member and reach to all of them. Well, so from previous community mergers, we knew how difficult this could be, and also how annoying it can be to communicate the same topics over and over again. And therefore, we wanted to do something different this time. And although we did not have cat content, we had some other cute protagonists which we could put our spotlights on. So may I introduce you to the little astronauts of Houston We Have a Problem. My dear colleague Steffi Markovic, who is also on the call, used those astronauts in the Houston community to communicate changes, technical updates, new features, and so on. So people were used to those little astronauts and knew them and were already fans of them. And so back then they may look a little different, had not the Bosch colors, but still were established at a fixed part of this community. And as I'm personally was and still am the biggest fan of those cute little guys, we decided that they should be the main characters in our change communication. We built up a story around those astronauts, and the storyline was that the astronauts are ending their space mission, so that the Houston We Have a Problem community will end the support service and head to Earth to settle down in the Experience City, the original, the second community, and to make this big. And we defined 4 steps for our communication. Here in our first communication, we used sentences like, therefore, we ask you for your opinion at the beginning of the year in Houston Mission Control heard you. Or we also said, we already initiated the landing approach and we plan to have the astronauts finally settling down in the Experience City until end of March. So with this, we not only introduced the astronauts and the space theme, but we also explained the decision, why it came to the closure of the Houston community. We showed the advantages, the time estimation, and also the consequences for the old community. And of course, invited already actively to be part of the new community. In the second step, we not only had to tell the users from the old community, but also, of course, the members of the Experience City, as there will be a huge impact for them because we wanted to change like everything in this existing community. And after our first try with the Houston community, which worked very fine, we went this time very big on the astronaut topics. So for example, we wrote here, attention residents, our community is going to grow this year. The astronauts from Houston We Have a Problem will settle down in our neighborhood and Experience City. 4 years ago, they started a space mission with the aim to provide interested colleagues and users of Bosch Connect with technical news about the tool Bosch Connect and so on. So you see, this time we went serious on it. And we just did this to make it fun to read. We wanted to make it different from 90% of the other published daily topics in Bosch Connect, although it's still work-related. We talked about our vision, we showed the big advantages, and again, link all relevant information, and at the same time, gave people the place for questions and feedback to us. And after that, and after a lot of work with bringing everything to life and shifting a lot of content and merge all the relevant information, we had to celebrate ourselves in the third step of our communication campaign. We welcomed the astronauts officially, and as you can see here, we had a little cheering astronaut who says, hooray, we are finally here. And we didn't get tired of repeating all the advantages. So for example, here in this, this blog post, we outlined that the citizens of Experience City had a little spring cleaning for the astronauts, and on this way, we introduced the new features of the new community to everyone there. We also showed this time ourselves, as we had a lot of work to do, and we were prepared for feedback because we wanted to respond very fast on any kind of questions, comments, or at least as well criticism, because everything was new, so we expected people to ask, which is totally fine. And then the fourth, but also very important and last step, we announced the official closure of the old Houston We Have a Problem community. Because if people go there, they should not be confused when nothing is there. So we said empty blocks, abandoned wikis, no astronauts around. Please go to the new experience city. We explained again in this blog post our journey. We linked all relevant information and we invited again to become a member of the new one. But with the successful landing of the astronauts in the Experience City, the journey was not over. The new Experience City was and still is today a big community with a lot of wikis, a lot of tutorials, a lot of content, blogs, and so on and so on. And as you remember from the beginning, one of our main goals was to show the advantages of a community merge. We wanted to make our users familiar with the new structure, and therefore we invited for a little treasure hunt. We told the story that the landing in Experience City was, although we were well prepared, was bumpier than expected, and that we lost 5 of our crew members. And for example, we said, but luckily we got fragments from messages that our radio technician understood. For example, we said, I can see when the next release for the Bosch Connect is planned. Looks like a map. And with this, we asked our members to go through all the Bosch Connect components and find our 5 missing astronauts. On this way, we wanted to introduce the new structure. And we also asked them to like, share, comment, and vote on those pages where they find the astronauts. And after that, come back to the original blog post and comment that they found all of them. And then I went through all of them hand by hand and checked if they really found all of them. And if so, they were tagged with the hashtag Experience City Explorer and got this nice little badge on their wall which says brave savior of the astronauts, and they got endless glory and honor, of course. So, well, looking back, the community team, we were big fans of our idea, but what did the users say? And we were just surprised by the extremely positive feedback we got from all around Bosch. You know, you must know that there were always like a lot of views on our post. In Houston, we have a problem, and in the Experience City, but never a lot of interaction like likes and comments. And therefore, we were very, very happy that we got more than 260 likes, 65 comments, and almost 3,000 views in total, as well as some very nice comments and feedbacks like you can see here. And my favorite one actually is this here, which says, Houston, I think we do not have a problem anymore, which shows that the people are really engaged with the whole space mission story, which for me personally is the biggest success here in our campaign. And of course, the story of the astronauts is not over yet. We can easily reuse it at any time for any other change communications, for example, for surveys, new features, downtimes, updates, whatever. It is really easy to reuse it from time to time and make it present again at people's minds. Yes, and saying this, I hope I could give you some inspiration for your future communication in communities, and I hope I may influence the way you communicate change in future, because it's easy to change the astronauts to protagonists which fits for your examples. And my message is, make your own story and bring it to life, because everyone enjoys a good story. And saying this, I say thank you very much for having me and listening, and feel free to ask any questions.
Yes, thank you, Selina. That's really an awesome story. Very cute, and also very successful. So do we have, I think we have the time for 1 or 2 questions. There have been already questions in the chat, but they have been answered there as well. Do you have some additional questions? Okay, there is a question. Is there a lasting effect of people getting involved after the story?
Yes, we could definitely see that people were more actively going to the community after this, because in the beginning we had the effect that they said, oh, we will have too many information now in the Experience City as it grows. But after the campaign, we could see that the views are higher than before, and they are still very into the updates they got, because the astronauts are still used there.
Mm-hmm. Okay, another question was is probably about, are there international members involved in the astronaut stories, or members?
Well, back then we were a team just, I think, in Germany, but after that our team grew, and we had people from all over the world now. So we have also India and Mexico, and they do use it as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay, one last question. How much time did it take to prepare the astronaut campaign?
Back then, we had the lucky situation that I was there full-time for communication and the technical team. So I had time to work on this full-time. But as the storyline was set, I would say it takes, for example, like a day of brainstorming and workshop to set up a storyline, and after that, just go on with it in the blog posts. For somebody who has for someone who has not a full-time to do community management, I would suggest like do a workshop and then go from there.
Mm-hmm. Okay, wonderful. I think it's work, but professional community management is not a part-time job. There have to be people around, people behind it, committed people, and there have to be bosses who really want them to be community managers. And I think that's a good transition to our next host. Our next host will be Tanja from the Bundesverband für Community Management, or Association for Community Management in Germany. And she's really fighting for the recognition of community managers as a profession. They have the profiles, the skill profiles they set up the skill profiles for community management. They have certifications, exams for community managers. And Tanja is also a host of an event that's called the Community Gipfel, which will take place on March 17th, where community managers from all over Germany come together. And Tanja, I hope you can hear me and you can speak. You're also traveling a little bit around the world, so you have a lot of connections, and you see community managements in other countries. And you can tell us maybe something about what are the upcoming trends in community management in 2020. Hello, Tanja.
Hello, great to be here.
Well, great to have you here.
Yeah, well, you already introduced our association and the three main pillars, so I don't really have to say much about that anymore. That are the job profiles you described. We have three main profiles. There are the social media manager, the community manager, and the corporate community manager. So that's what most of you people are doing. And we have job descriptions, so companies really know who to hire and where they are looking for whom they are looking, because a lot of companies don't know the difference between a social media and a community manager. They don't know where they are looking for, or even what the job profiles are doing. They're usually, a lot of them, everything that's connected to the web or the sign, oh yeah, you're the person, you're going to do it, you're going to get it. So that's one of our pillars. The other, as you mentioned, are the certificates, but they are at the moment just for external, like the social media manager and the community manager. And the third one is our survey, where we really ask the professionals, okay, what's your job? How's the structure within your company? And especially, what are the incomes? And one of the main things, you can see that we as a profession are eventually getting more recognition. Even so, the community manager is much longer in the field than the social media manager. It's only since the rise of the social media manager that people actually start to recognize our industry. But it's still only the social media manager most people see. And as I said, they don't really know the difference. And as on the external side, everything that's going on with harassment and hate speech shows what a community manager really has to do. But that's only the outside. A lot of people still don't know what a lot of work, especially on the internal part, belongs to it. Connecting people, project management, product management, and everything that comes with it. And companies have to understand that's not a job for everyone. You need a special kind of skill set, and it's not a job someone with an internship can do for 3 months, and then the next one is taking over. And that's what companies, also especially on the internal side, finally start to realize how important the culture of a company is for a better connection of the employees, and that everyone is going to benefit within the company. And our work life is going to change. And we need a better structure for knowledge and working together. Our survey over the last years showed that following those recognition, a rising in income. And one insight for you, the internal community managers are the ones that are getting the most money. If you compare those 3 job profiles on average, the corporate community managers are the ones with the highest income on average. And I've been to the 2 big conferences, Swarm in Australia and CMX near San Francisco. And I brought you the topics that were discussed most over there. Even so, most of them were discussed for external communities. You can skip them over to the internal ones. Point 1 is self-care. Community management is really, really stressful. And even so, over there, it was a lot about hate speech and harassment. You can take that on the internal part as well. You don't have that much trolling or hate speech, but you have it on a different level. You have fights with your employees as well. And there's a lot of different pressure for you, especially emotionally, because you're engaging with your colleagues, with your fellow employees. And you need to find content pieces that are really interesting. And you have a completely different kind of involvement. That's what it really makes it stressful when there are problems, because you're so emotionally involved. And you can meet everyone somewhere on the outside of your office and bump into everyone. So that's a complete different level of exposure. And you need ways to cope with that. And your company has to understand that that is an issue. And a lot of community managers are being left alone with that issue, but we need to take care of us and of each other, and companies need to take care of the employees. The other trend is engagement, how to interact with the community, what to do, what to deliver, and that's the same for external and internal ones. How can you reach the employees? How can you manage an active environment? The third one is design and usability of a platform, so that are people using it, no matter if internal or external. How is the usability? How do you reach people? There are a lot that never really engage with the internet, that don't really have a tablet. How do you get them into it? How do you explain it to them? And how do you transform the platform that's not boring for people that are using the platform all the time? You really need to get together all those employees. Communication is the fourth point. And even so, hate speech, as we mentioned before, is less in internal communities. There are other problems, because people need to feel motivated and to feel safe in order to really speak up, in order to speak about problems of a company and without the fear of losing their jobs. And KPIs, like always. How can we prove the value of a community? Which are the best metrics to show that a shared knowledge delivers more output? That less employees are leaving the company because of a better atmosphere and a better connection to other employees? Most companies still don't understand the value because they're trying to create some metrics and put it in an Excel sheet to compare it with other metrics. But you can't put a price tag on relationships. There's going to be a lot of change in the industry of community management. There will be more recognition in 2020, and more companies are going to start communities, external, but also especially internal ones. I don't know if you've seen the Community Roundtable survey in 2019, because they predict that there's going to be a rise in internal communities, because there are critical governance approaches to transform organizations and culture. The top 3 business outcomes connected to internal community values are the change in the culture and the organization with 61%, quality improvement overall of 50%, and innovation with 47%. And also the Vanilla Forum Strengths Report 2020 sees a rise for internal communities. Factors for this strengths are that the employee turnover rate is high, especially with millennials. They are more on the jump to change the job. And companies try through communities to give them more space and more training and meaningful relationships. Companies finally start to realize the value of a community, even so it is still a really long way to go for us. An article published 3 days ago by Arnett stated a survey from the Boston Consulting Group. And that said that organizations that focus on cultural change as part of the digital transformation projects had a much higher rate of financial success, by 90%, than those that neglected culture. Culture and relationships are so important, and communities are the best way to connect each other and to create this culture and an atmosphere. It is going to be a really interesting year for the industry. The trend is to get more human in the digital space. And how better to do that than to connect people via a community. So if you have any questions, didn't follow the chat.
Achim, you're muted.
Sorry, I was talking. There is a question in the chat. How do you do it if the average age of the community you want to reach is not millennial and is mainly men?
Well, you always need different tactics on how to reach your community. You need another overall strategy. So, but still the feeling of getting together is the same with older people than with younger people. If you feel glad where you are and connected to your fellow employees, you love to stay there, and you're staying there and you're not leaving. So you need to find the triggers that get older men to stick around in a community, and to need to see how much they're using the internet, where they're using it, how they are using it, and yeah, try to get them together. And don't always look just on the work side. Also put stuff in there about leisure where people can talk about, or put the menu of your canteen in there, whatever gets people connected and together.
Thank you, Tanya. There is no question right now in the chat. Maybe I add something. Maybe I see a trend for internal communities. You talked about culture, how communities can change culture, but we see also a big trend in the current environment. How can we really make sure that the culture is there, the framework conditions to make to really enable communities work in a company, because we see still a lot of hesitation or like cost saving measures, and a lack of recognition for community work and engagement. Maybe that's also a big topic here today. Do you have any advice or experience about this issue?
Yes, culture is kind of the main part. That's why people are sticking to a company. I just recently talked to a lot of people that said, well, I didn't like my job that much anymore, but I stayed there because of the culture and of the people. And I saw a lot of companies that didn't recognize it at all. They just took two sides of a company with completely different cultures, put them together in one spot, and all the people that have been there for over 30, 40 years, they all left the company because there was nothing left of the culture. And a community is a great way to put a culture there and to show the culture with some reads and some symbols and to enforce that. But still a really long way until employees see that you can't put a price, the company sees that you can't put a price tag on that.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Tanya. I think we're at the end of this little slot. As there are no questions right now, I would suggest that we go over to our breakout sessions. And maybe you have a lot of question mark inside of you. Now it's the time to really raise your voice and tell your questions. We want to know what's up for you on your plate in 2020, what questions, what challenges, what endeavors also, what will be your projects. And you can discuss them in little groups. So Simon is going to put you in a group by chance. So we will not pre-see who is with whom, but you can discuss there and then write something in Mentimeter. Did I explain it right now, Simon, with the Mentimeter? Do I have to explain anything else?
Yes, everybody needs to go then to menti.com. Perhaps you show the one slide.
Yeah.
Yes, Achim, maybe you want to share your screen to show the code.
Just have to find it again. Okay, I share my screen, sorry. So I'm getting hectic, but
as long as Achim is searching, just for your information, as Achim said, we split you up in groups of 5 or 6, discuss what are the hot topics for you in 2020, and then go to the URL that you see on the top, menti.com or www.menti.com, and just insert the code 33334. Then you can put in your hot topics, and afterwards sort of a word cloud is created out of it. When a term is used more often throughout more than one of the groups, it gets bigger. You know that effect in word clouds, so we get sort of an result over all the groups then. So I will start the breakout room process. Normally your Menti should show you a little call out box in a second. Then you're beamed to the room. The interface is almost the same that we are here, only with the difference that you're only 5 of you. And then you get a 60-second signal in about 10 minutes when you get you back to the plenum, and then you're back here again. Okay. So I open all the rooms.
Mm-hmm. There are already contributions here.
Yeah, it's very, very fast discussion process. Everybody should be back right now, or at least coming back in a second.
Yeah, now I'm really excited to see what were on our participants' minds for this year, or what were their projects, or what were their whatever questions, challenges.
You need to share it if you want to show it.
I need to share it, so sorry, that's my. So see voting results. Okay. It wants to enter my email again. Shit. Ah, okay, now I have it. Now I have it. Okay, I need to share. Sorry I'm not quite experienced with that. Okay, now you can see it. This is the cloud that's been created by you. Your contributions, that's very interesting. Engagement is really, I think it's an evergreen, isn't it? Because engagement is the currency of communities, I guess, and it's always a challenge to really create engagement. Yeah, if you want to say anything, if you have any annotations, just type them into the chat. I try to interpret this a little bit. Of course, contribution is very much linked to engagement, I think. But also there is this anti thing, the challenge that most people face with social intranets. It's information overload. We have to explain how they really cope with that. I think that's also a task of community managers. And yeah, foster dialogue. I think that's a form of engagement, but also, yeah, it's a special type of engagement, which is more human, I think, because we have to look each other in the eyes and really, yeah, start a conversation, really see the other human being behind it, even if it's in a virtual community. And I think that's also a big challenge for community managers to enable that. So there are some technical things. AI is big. I don't know, has anybody of you experiences with AI in communities? I don't see the chat, so if someone could support me there, if there are any questions in the chat.
No questions or comments so far, Achim.
Okay, thank you, Rebecca. Yeah, and then there are a lot of other tags in this cloud. I think it's too much to really read everything to you. That's not the point, I think. But maybe it's the time. Tanya, for instance, is still here, I think. We are still here, or maybe if you want to ask a question in the plenum to the other participants of the call. So that would be the moment to do that. Too shy for a community manager. There is no stupid question.
Yeah, maybe I would like to address that, that question further. So as we see this, especially AI is already a topic also in community management in some companies. Is that also seen as a trend or already in consideration in the BCM, for example?
I didn't get it, the last thing.
So if artificial intelligence is also already a topic in the BVCM, so when it comes to community management in the future?
Not really that much at the moment. Mm-hmm. It would be probably really interesting field to get into. But we don't have any really projects with that at the moment. We are still more on the basics because most companies still don't understand what a community manager does. So that's still what we are focusing on. Mm. There are probably a few in our association that are in that field, but I don't know who is working on it at the moment, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. Maybe the people who voted for AI can say why they voted for AI. So that would be interesting to learn. I think it's probably a trend. Like I read these days an article on T3N where one of the top skills requested on LinkedIn was blockchain, and probably it's also, and AI was also a topic of that. So it's probably a trend brought by bosses or by the companies, and there are people thinking about how to include AI in a community. So anyone who wants to say anything about that? Okay. I hear you breathing. Okay. Yeah, I think I would study that. I mean, it's really interesting what you brought up here. But if there are no more questions, we can also conclude this call because we are meeting again. Steffi, do you want to do the closing moderation?
Talking to me or the other Steffi
yeah,
now?
No, the right. Stefanie Preisinger. Yeah.
Yes, we have in our close team two Steffis. That's well a question to ask. All right. Yeah. So
Katrin, sorry. Katrin, do you have the presentation again?
Yes, of course. Give me a second. I'm sorry.
I'm still here, so feel free to ask. Was just
so there is no question.
Yeah, there was one in the chat.
Exactly. Do you hear me? Here's Lucas.
Yes.
Hi, Lucas.
Okay.
And we talked in our breakout session a little bit, and I brought it in about maybe a more efficiency or a cost-driven transformation orientation about communities. That's what I was experiencing over the last couple of months, at least in the automotive industry. We have a more, let's say, cost-driven ambition when it comes to collaboration than we had in the past, where it was also more focused on innovation and building up something together. Is this something you see also, or you want to tackle with the BBCM? Because I think it's a huge potential for communities to, let's say, position communities also in a time of maybe a transformation that we haven't seen in the last 3-4 years.
What do you mean, the cost-saving aspect of communities, or?
The efficiency aspect, exactly. Yeah. So this is something we carried out, but at least at Daimler, we focused more about the innovation aspect, the collaboration aspect in the last couple of years. And right now, the whole company and other companies as well are focusing a lot on cost-driven transformation. So I was thinking about maybe that's a good focus point also for the BBCM to focus on this benefit of communities.
That would actually be a really interesting part, but we are usually not focusing on one special goal of a community because there are so many different platforms and so many companies with different kind of goals. Some are on social media, some are to external customers, or are on internal ones. So sure, we are telling, okay, that are the goals that you can reach, but it's not that we don't have a guide at the moment that tells you everything about that. But we could do that at some point. And one more thing, we will do another survey at some point. So for the German-speaking ones, you can get the presentation, the survey on our website. And if there are any points where you say, that would be so interesting for an internal community, write me the question so we can get it into the next survey.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you.
And I take that with the guide and what you could do with different goals. Maybe we could, I don't know, do another white paper on that.
That sounds great.
All right. Thanks a lot for this advice. I can also recommend to read this. I think especially also the survey results give a very good insight. And I can also agree on Lucas. So for us, communities also play an increasingly important role when it comes to internal or enhancing internal collaboration and breaking down silos. Well, and also here in our round today, I think we do a good approach in this direction, and well, communities connect people also across company borders. And so we would like to thank you from our core team here to be here today, for taking your time and to contributing to drive community management forward. Communities are the key to success in our digital and connected world. And with this, we wish you a great rest of the week. As Rebecca posted in the chat, you have the possibility to enter topics of your interest for the next call, which will take place in April. And of course, as we see here, so it's not only about collaboration, but an important topic remains to be the engagement. And also here, probably together, we can find good solutions for that. So thank you for being here today.
Yeah, April 23rd at 4 o'clock CEST probably. April 23rd will be the next call.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you as well.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you and bye.